so I can measure up and do my best until the end of this year. So please do not hesitate to get a hold of me. Let me know things that you think I should know about. And if you have some concerns or complaints or anything else, I would like to be among the first to hear about them so I can try to help. And so I know what I'm doing on behalf of the good people of Ward 3. It is an honor and a privilege, and I really appreciate this meeting. I certainly thank Paul. He's already helped me out at a few meetings that we've been working on, and I appreciate that too. So have a great night, and I'll be here after to chat if you wish, and do phone or email or get in touch whatever way you wish if the need arises. Thank you very much.
There are a number of components of work that's happening within this neighborhood, and of course one of the pieces that will be completed first is the new stadium, which then leads us into the PanAm Games and their impending arrival. It's not that long now before we'll be hosting soccer on behalf of the Pan American Games, and so there's lots of excitement around some of that, and that'll be some of the first transformations that are happening in the neighborhood. So I'm going to invite Coralie and Greg to take it from here, talk a little bit about the stadium, give you an update there, and then also talk about the PanAm Games.
Thanks, Paul. I'm going to speak about the stadium, give you a little bit of an update on the stadium, and Greg's going to speak about the PanAm Games. Planning is underway. We're just starting to ramp things up, so we're certainly going to be coming back to the community on a fairly regular basis now to keep you updated, let you know what's happening, let you know the impact to the neighborhood, and sort of figure out how we're going to make this thing work come games time. So just from the stadium perspective, it's now officially Tim Hortons Field. That was just approved last week, and so it is now the Tim Hortons Field. But during the games time period, you're going to hear it as the CIBC PanAm Hamilton Soccer Stadium. It will have a different name for the games period time. So you're going to start to see sort of mixed messages. We're still talking about Tim Hortons Field, but it will have its new name. So just some milestones that have happened. In December, we reached the 50% completion mark. This project is a two-payment schedule, so we were able to make our first payment in December when they achieved 50% of the stadium construction. We have lots of questions and lots of things around who's working on the site. There are a majority of the subcontractors are local. We have Walter Steel, we have the masonry contract is Clifford. So there's a number of local contractors that were able to secure the work to construct the stadium. Due to the extreme weather that we've had this winter, who'd have thought we'd have a winter like this, especially when we're on a fairly aggressive schedule to get the stadium complete. So the weather's caused a couple of week delay, plus we've experienced one of the masonry contractors went into receivership, so that has put us back about 2 weeks. So the targeted date for completion was June 30th. They're on a mitigated schedule to try and get there. They're working double shifts. They're working Saturdays, as I'm sure if you live close by, you're seeing all of that happen. They are trying to coordinate the work to have about 120 to 230 contractors on site working. And in a normal project, you would have one contractor move in, do the work, then you would have another contractor come in after that work was finished. But we're trying to coordinate all the work in order to ensure that it is getting completed on time. So it takes an awful lot of coordination and organization by Ontario Sports Solution to ensure that the stadium work is being expedited as quickly as possible. Okay. And just a couple of things. I know we've been getting some calls on the neighborhood parking. The parking lot at Scott Park has been jam-packed. They're parking the streets. We're looking for an off-site location right now to move the contractors off to. So we're working on that right now. I can't tell you sort of where it is yet because we're still exploring some options within the neighborhood. But we certainly know that we've got to get them moved, and we're only going to be actually building more people on the site. So we need to find a location that's off-site for them to park so we can continue to allow the rec center and hockey people to park in the parking lot, and we can allow
city. As many of you know, this site is a historical site for sport. It hosted the very first multi-sport international event here in Canada called the British Empire Games. When Commonwealth Games Canada was notified of the Queen's Baton, they suggested or recommended The two sites it should visit is the nation's capital, for obvious reasons, and of course the City of Hamilton. You're all invited May 2nd, 10 o'clock to join us. We'll have some entertainment. We'll be unveiling a historical plaque, and it'll be an excellent event. I'm sure you'll really enjoy it. Last but not least, we also get calls in the office about ticketing. The ticketing information will be announced this fall, come November. I will tell you, without going into the detail, ticket prices will be very, very affordable, including a special discount for all youth. So a family of 4 can attend the games at a very reasonable price. We're also looking at providing shuttling throughout the city for those both visiting and attending the games. So a lot of progress on the games. Things are coming together. I will mention as well, our one-year countdown will take place down at the waterfront. On the Saturday night, we're going to call it Light Up the Night, where all the participants will actually light up. We're going to light up a 5-kilometer course, and throughout that course, you're going to walk, stroll, and dance. And we'll finish it off with the big video dance party. The next day, July 13th, coincides with the Gold Cup game for the FIFA World Cup. We will have the celebration on the waterfront with food, cultural entertainment, and the opportunity to join your friends and watch the game live via CBC down at the waterfront. Wear your soccer jersey, bring your flag, and come to cheer on your nation. Again, we want you to have a sense of the flavor of what will happen when the games come here in 2015. So we hope to see everyone May 2nd right here at the stadium if you're available at 10 o'clock, and we hope everyone joins us for the one-year celebration. Thank you.
Tonight's presentation, as well as all of the materials that are generated from our community meetings, your feedback, will be posted on the city's website. Our website is www.hamilton.ca, and to go directly to where this is, just put /PanAm, P-A-N-A-M, and all of the information's there, including information from our previous sessions in 2012 and 2013. The purpose really of tonight and our engagement tonight is around the recreation amenities that are going to be coming into this neighborhood. We have approvals in place to do a couple of pieces through the city. One is to construct a community center, which will also house dedicated space for older adult activities within a new center on the Scott Park site. The second piece is we received approval to look at land acquisition, which would increase the amount of outdoor space for recreation as well. You're going to hear an update as to where we are in those pieces of work, and then that is going to lead us into our breakout sessions with recreation staff to gather some more feedback and also validate much of what you've said in previous meetings about the kinds of amenities and activities we should be looking for. So Chris Hurstek is a director with our recreation division at the City of Hamilton, and Chris is going to take us through the next session. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul, and welcome everyone. It's my pleasure that Council gave us the direction to move forward with multiple recreation facilities within this precinct, and we're very proud that Council has given us the direction for the planning and to deliver these programs and facilities. So we just want to move forward with the current landscape. Jimmy Thompson Memorial Pool. We have a consultant on board to complete a heritage assessment. That heritage assessment should be completed in March, and that report will be going to committee and council for their direction and further direction on this item. The Scott Park Arena, at the end of this ice season, so at the end of March, it will be decommissioned. We'll be decommissioning the arena to make room for the new rec center and senior center. And the baseball diamonds will be open for play for 2014. I know the Scott Park baseball is a very popular league with the community. We have other construction projects within the community. Outdoor facilities, we've been given direction to move forward with outdoor land purchase. So city staff are working right now to secure a block of land. It's approximately 10 to 12 acres. This is for the replacement of Brian Timmis Field. And also other recreation amenities. We'll be hosting a similar meeting like this so that we can get your input to decide what we're going to be putting into that outdoor facility. So the Tim Hortons Field, although it's going to be the stadium, it's also going to have indoor recreation amenities for us to use as well. So it's going to be a community-based facility for programming. I'd like to give you kind of a spatial diagram of it. It's about a third of the size of this gym will be available for either fitness, dance, or physical activity programming. And we're really looking forward to moving forward with that. With the stadium pegged to be completed in July, programming would be able to begin this year. So now on to the new community center and senior center. Just a little bit of a timeline. September 2013, Council approved funding for the new facility. March 2014, the heritage assessment for Jimmy Thompson Memorial Pool will be completed. And tonight, if we can get some consensus about the programming and the type of facilities that we want to add into the new recreation center, we'll be able to put out an RFP, which is a request for a proposal from our prime consultant, and we'll be able to have an architect on board within the next 3 months. Completion of this facility of this size, which will be greater than 50,000 square feet, will take approximately 3 years, and that would be design and construction. I'd also like to mention that there also is another facility that's being built in the precinct, and that's the new school. And you know, I know that's an exciting feature for us as well as we move forward. So just a basic diagram of kind of a placeholder for the new recreation and senior center at the Scott Park site. And I would just like to give you a couple of pictures of our newly, there we go, just newly completed recreation facilities. So this is a Westmount recreation facility. It's actually a facility that has a large double gym. It has 3 multi-purpose rooms, a dedicated youth space, and it has 3 pool tanks. It has a therapeutic pool, has a teaching and or leisure pool, and it has a lane swimming pool. This next facility at the top is Stony Creek Recreation Center. It has a 3-pool tank as well, therapeutic, has a water slide, lane swimming, and a leisure pool. It also has a dedicated youth space, and it has dance and fitness rooms there as well. And this bottom picture is our Ancaster Senior Achievement Center. This is the new addition that's going to be completed at the end of the month. It's about 3,000 square feet of program space. It has a kitchen and a servery, and it has also a great room to, so that the groups up there, the Ancaster seniors, can host events. So why we're here tonight, we need your help. We want to validate the great information that you provided us last year, my apologies. You gave us ideas on programming, you gave us ideas on what type of features you want in the new facility, and today on our breakout groups, we'd also like to just validate that. And if you have any new ideas, feel free to put them forward as well. We have our recreation staff. They're going to be manning the breakout areas, 2 to the side and 1 to the back. And if we need be, we'll add more breakout sessions. But really, we have 4 goals. We want to know what programs you want offered in the new rec center, senior center. We want to know what type of amenities or what type of program rooms you need in that new rec center, senior center. We want to know what type of programs we can offer in the stadium for you. For about half an hour, we'll be walking around answering questions. But the facilitators in those breakout groups are going to lead you through these questions and also going to take down notes. And at the end, we'll come forward with all of the consensus that came from those groups. Thank you.
On the screen, and we're going to leave this on the screen, are some of the key areas that were described in our previous times together. And while I'm saying a few words, Chris, you need to organize the team and figure out how we'll have a couple of extra stations spread around this gym. So I'm going to spread this out by an extra couple of minutes so you can figure out how that's going to happen. Within the discussion groups, here's how the timing is going to work. From 7:30 to 7:45, there'll be a chance for questions and comments about some of the pieces that you've heard. And as I've mentioned, our facilitators may be able to answer some of those right away or clarify that right away. And if they can't, we'll jot them down and we'll collect them so as part of our report back at the end, we can answer some of those questions. The reality is tonight we need to get some direction from you so that we can take the next steps in terms of our work. So we want to get down to the business of the programming that we're trying to incorporate within the facilities. The second 45 minutes that follows till 8:30 will be a chance to work through the questions that Chris has talked about in terms of the programming, not just within the new facility that will be constructed, but I think it's really important to recognize that, you know, a third of the space of this gym is a big space. And that comes available as soon as the stadium is constructed, and we can start to think about programming in the community right away. There is also a chance for some ad hoc programming within the new stadium from time to time. So if there's other ideas of ways that events can be held there or other activities, we want to hear about that as well. But certainly the big piece is when we construct a large-scale community center with a senior center dedicated within that, what's the programming look like from your perspective? What does success look like in terms of that programming? So 45 minutes for that conversation, 15 minutes at the beginning for questions and comments. And then when we come back at 8:30 for our last half hour, we'll do two things. One is hear a quick report back from our other groups so you get a flavor of what happened. Again, all of the pieces of feedback that came from the groups will be posted on the website. And then the second piece will be if there's some questions that we need to answer in open session or perhaps draw in some of our partners to answer, we'll do that for you as well before we have a hard end at 9 o'clock. Your time's important. We start on time and end on time. It's a good way to do business. So I know that for some, we want to get into the conversation in a large group. It's just going to take us too long to do that, so we want to do that within our small groups. But your questions and concerns will be raised there. They won't get lost. They'll come back to the large group for discussion. One piece of physical activity you will need to do or have someone help you with is your chairs need to go with you if you want to sit down. And as we move around the gym, Chris will come back in just a second and tell us where the extra stations are set up. You'll have to move around the gym and find space to gather in groups and get close together. You'll get to know your neighbors really well so that we can have a good conversation in the small groups. So we'll be back together in the large session in about an hour's time. We're right on schedule this evening, which is great. And Chris can give us the last-minute instructions, and then we'll get into the conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. So we have 5 stations organized. There's going to be 3 at the back. There's going to be 1 on the side over here, and there's going to be 1 on the side over here by the basketball net. So there's going to be 5 stations. Do you need the whistle? Do I need Paul's whistle, or are we good to go? Okay, we're good to go. So we'll give you about 2 minutes to move forward, and then we'll meet you all over there.
Check 1, 2, 3. About to have a media scrum here with Paul Johnson, who is whoever's willing to come up first. Paul. What's Chris's last name? Chris Persta. Okay, so first up we will have the councillors speaking to media. Then following that, Paul Johnson. You're okay? Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. I'll get that out of your way.
C-Core. S-E-C-O-R-E. No, she's not. She's a city staff.
Okay, Paul, so you have announced that the arena is going to close this March, and that's it for the arena. The baseball diamonds remain open in 2014. What's happening with the baseball diamonds in 2015?
Well, baseball will remain at Scott Park. There was a question about in 2014 what was going to happen with all the construction and the changes. We wanted to make sure tonight everyone knows that Scott Park baseball is going to continue. But right now we know baseball is important, and there are no plans in terms of our construction to look at removing baseball from Scott Park at this point.
So you were saying that the neighbors have concerns about the contractors parking on street in the neighborhood, that you guys are going to be bringing in even more contractors as you rush to try to get done on time. How close are you to alleviating that problem?
Staff are working on a parking solution for that, and obviously as more activity happens, we have to solve that. Parking's an issue all the time in this area, and we don't want it to become a larger issue with the construction.
Why don't you let the people park in people's driveways and they make some money that way?
It's a good idea, I don't know. We might have a bylaw against that or something. I don't know. I'm teasing, yeah.
Okay, actually, on the parking issue, though, you're talking about having more events at the stadium. And as you're aware, parking was the reason why we couldn't build here until we did build here. What's the long-term solution to the parking issue?
I'll have to deal with parking in a whole bunch of ways. Obviously, for the Tiger Cats, it's a big issue. For the other events, the good news is that when you look at the overall neighborhood, there are a number of parking spaces available, and we'll have to do the proper balance between enforcement so that the residents are not unduly hurt by the situation, but also ensuring people have parking. But the bottom line is we can't put parking on site in any more capacity than we have already. We will be building parking with the community center as well to make sure that people can park on site when they're coming for recreation. And obviously there'll be some parking at the stadium, but not much.
There's rumor, and I want to address it on the record, that there's structural problems with the stadium. Have you heard this rumor? Can you comment on it?
I can't comment on that.
Okay. And in terms of the stadium construction, is it on time yet or is it late? Where is that at?
So what we heard this evening from staff is that there is obviously a little bit of delay due to the weather is a big factor. And the second piece is one of the contractors went into receivership, and so they had to mitigate that. But they're still looking at trying to be on time. And some of the realities of increasing the construction is a way of making that happen. So the information that the community heard tonight from staff is at this stage we're optimistic that we can the construction company can meet the deadline or as close to the deadline as possible.
Are they going from like 7 a.m. to 9 o'clock at night, or are they going? They're not going 24 hours, are they? Or
no, double shifting. But the actual details on that you'd have to get from the PanAm staff.
Have you toured it? Have you feel confident everything's going the way?
I haven't been on the site at this stage, but everything we've reported through to committee and council and everything we were saying tonight is that within a tolerance of what this winter's been like, things are in good shape.
Now, the rec center construction, does the ban on construction of roads, for example, apply to the construction of the rec center during the PanAm Games?
Obviously, the PanAm Games will impact our overall construction schedule, but a project of this size that has yet to go out to tender for even our prime consultant on the architect side, this is a 3-year project. It'll be factored in as part of the construction timing, but this is a large-scale initiative that is going to take 3 years to construct. The exciting part is, though, we're going to get going on it.
Now, the rec department showed images of Stony Creek Recreation Center. Is there plans to add an additional pool to Jimmy Thompson?
Exactly how Jimmy Thompson will be incorporated in is we're waiting on the heritage assessment to come forward, and council will have to provide direction on how that happens. We want to increase the community access to aquatics. It's something we've heard in the past, and something that we know if you go to Westmount, if you're in the Stony Creek Recreation Centers, the access and the involvement of people within those pools is quite amazing. And so we want to make sure that at the end of the day there's increased community access. As you know, with Jimmy Thompson, there are some accessibility issues with that facility, but we want to make sure we're strong on the heritage side because there's a lot of history in this spot. You heard it this evening that this is the site of the British Empire Games. We're actually going to have some commemoration of that, especially happening here, and we don't want to lose that. And Jimmy Thompson has been a huge part. Not a day goes by that I don't bump into somebody else that learned to swim at Jimmy Thompson Pool. And what we want to do is honor that tradition in the best possible way, but we need to see what the results of this are. We've been very clear that never, a lot of people said to us early on, you're just going to tear it down. And there was this huge outcry, and we've said, no, right from day one, we've said we want to understand what the heritage components of that pool are and how they can be incorporated best into this piece moving forward. But also some parts of the building are not a heritage piece at all. The whole back end is concrete block construction. So there are some components that we really want to hold on to. There are other parts of that building which we have to take into account too, which have been already chopped and changed.
And in terms of how this new rec center will integrate into the overall recreation picture in this community, this one's a bit of a unique community because there's a city-owned pool nearby that's not city-operated, that being the Boys and Girls Club. We also have the YWCA, we have the Pinky Lewis. How does that fit in terms of recreation needs assessment and integrating those services?
Well, we'll be working with the partners to see how they can fit in. The whole idea is we actually have a number of amenities in this area. You take the tight neighborhood that we're talking about. We have the stadium with year-round programming available. We have the new community and senior center with full-time abilities, and you have an elementary school and a new high school, both of which have mandates after hours to provide community access. So we're actually seeing in the immediate area a whole bunch of opportunity. We also know that there's some tremendous programming that's happening. We're not going to try and duplicate that, but this is really a facility that serves the lower city. And when we heard the comments at committee and council about this, this is certainly a neighborhood issue, but it's also a lower city issue, and this will draw people from a wide range of areas.
And I'm going to put in another topic, one that probably you don't want to talk about today, but the LRT, the original concept had a station in the area. Is that part of the planning here with the rec center, is a potential integration with LRT?
Well, the planning for our construction will integrate transportation along this. So we do have the results of the technical work that's happened, so that would be factored into construction. But in terms of what happens, this is a transit corridor no matter what, and we want to make sure that this facility, you know where it's going to be located, this is at the prime heart of transportation country, and this is great because it means more people can come from east and west to come to this center. This is going to be a large center. We're at least at 50,000 square feet here, and the amenities within it are going to be a huge draw. So the excitement, I think, is that after a long time of having a few small facilities doing specific things, we're going to have a wonderful multi-service facility, which I think will be a huge boost to the neighborhood and also draw people down here for more than just the events that are happening at the stadium.
Board, I see both trustees in the area are here, the Ward 3 and Ward 4 trustee. There was some political challenge there, but in terms of setting up the school board and this center, are there any talks right now about how it relates to the new high school?
We were directed to reach out to the school board, which we have, and talk about how we're going to utilize space back and forth. The school board has been pretty clear. They still are a community use facility outside of their education hours, and it's a great opportunity for us to access increased gymnasium space and other amenities, and vice versa. Of course, they're unlikely to build a pool. I haven't heard that come out, so I would expect that they'd be looking at things like our aquatics programs and others as opportunities for their students and for their programming. So, I think when you look at what's happening in this area, we're going to have education from JK through to the end of high school. We're going to have recreation both at a professional and elite level. We're going to have recreation at an all-access level. And then the exciting part, which we can't wait to talk about, and we'll get there as soon as we can work through the issues, are increased outdoor amenity space, which is going to be that last piece of the puzzle for us, which we received direction late in the year last year to go and acquire land and build more outdoor spaces. We lost Brian Timmins Stadium. We want it back.
When you build this new park, are you going to go south or east or west, or is it going to be able to be contained in the Stadium Precinct?
No, it won't be right in the immediate Stadium Scott Park area. We have to go within the precinct, but a little bit further afield of that to acquire the kind of land we're talking about. So no, it's not the residential pieces around the stadium, that's for sure. It's in a different location, and we hope to be able to talk about exactly where that is in the very near future.
How far are we looking from the precinct?
It'd be close enough that you can walk to it.
Like we're going as far
Quick
as
walk.
Burlington to
They've already said that it's north of the tracks. It's a 10-acre site, and there's only one 10-acre parcel of land.
Is he correct?
Well, we haven't said it's north of the tracks. So we've talked about where it is, and it's in the 10 to 12 acre range, and so we're working through that property. I can't talk about the actual property, as you well know, so that's an in-camera conversation.
So the purpose of tonight's meeting, I think I've been to all these meetings, and you and I've talked to them. So the priorities, child, teen, youth, and seniors program is what you heard at previous meetings,
correct?
Right? And so the leisure pool, gym, multi-purpose rooms are just you're just saying to citizens, what do you think about this idea? So when they come back at 8:30, they may say, we want, and you've said these programs. They may come back with something totally different.
So what's advanced what's advanced since we had our previous meetings is we've also then looked at when you build a facility of this size, what's the kind of spacing configuration that you could have. So tonight's a little bit about probing that a little bit further, and within the spaces we have, do we need to be thinking about woodworking in an area versus aerobics or any combination. So we're really looking for the ideas. And the one that we didn't find a lot of clarity around was this concept of what health looks like within the center. So obviously we're not moving an emergency department here or anything like that, but what kind of health services might work? And I was very interested to read the article about the work that Hamilton Health Sciences and St. Peter's was doing with the Y on the mountain. So there may be some opportunities for some of those conversations. We need to probe a little bit more. What this does tonight is it gives us a really tight parameter. And we hope we can be kind of 90% clear for our consultant, our architect, so that they can design the right kind of facility. But that'll all come back also to the community to validate.
And now where will the senior rec center be built? Will it be a part of the stadium plans, or is it going to be...
It'll be integrated within the facility. So the facility will have both dedicated space for older adult programming as well as more general space for all ages. And of course, the pools and things.
The stadium and there'll be a senior recreation center. And have we agreed to name it Bernie? Is that, or am I dreaming that, or?
No, there's been no decision made on naming. Certainly, what it came out at council is that, his commitment to this over a long period of time needs to be recognized, but there's a process people have to work through around that.
But
for
you
those...
mentioned... I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Sorry.
I had 20 questions already.
So it has officially been renamed Tim Hortons Field by the city, like city council last week approved that?
Yeah, that's what we heard this evening, is that it's official. I mean, I don't know what would have happened if it got turned down, but no, I think it's all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed. It's Tim Hortons Field, except for the period of the PanAm games where it's the CIBC PanAm Soccer
June
Stadium.
8th to August 10th.
Yeah. Which is the same as what happened in BC Place and other, GM Place or whatever it was in the during the Winter Olympics.
For the people who are watching at home right now, how do they get involved? How do they give input?
So the input can be provided. There's contact information, hamilton.ca/PanAm, PANAM. That's the site where all the information's posted. There's contact information there. So emails can go directly through to the city. The other piece is the councillor this evening encouraged people to talk to him directly. And so many may want to get involved and get connected into the Ward 3 councillor and make sure that their thoughts are known as well. And then, of course, staff are always available, our recreation staff, myself, through the city. So we're providing the presentation that will be on the web will have all our names. We're all here to help.
So a future public meeting will be, once you've acquired all the land for the park, you'll have a public meeting to say, well, what do you want to have in the park? Football, baseball, soccer?
Same process. What we do know, and we've said pretty consistently, is that one portion of the park needs to be a high-end field to replace the old Brian Timmis field. But that will still leave a fair chunk of, if it's 10 to 12 acres, it would leave a fair chunk of that for other uses. And that's where we need to balance off what the needs in the community are. And we're also hearing these days some, interesting new types of recreation that people want. We're installing some cricket pitches for the first time across the city and other pieces. So I don't want to say that that's, where we're headed, but those are the kinds of ideas that it'd be pretty easy for us just to design. And I know some of the initial drawings were the pretty bog standard. Here's a couple of ball diamonds, a couple of hard courts for basketball, and away we go. It'll be a blank slate, except for obviously the high-end field for the Brian Timmis replacement.
Is there anything just after the Sochi games? Is there anything in the wind or something about a Toronto-Hamilton bid for the Olympics? Are people ever saying, once you get this all built, we should go for the Olympics or anything?
Certainly nothing I've heard from Hamilton, but I think Toronto. They obviously in the past have seen some aspirations around that. I have no idea, but this is going to be a good test for Southern Ontario in terms of how do you host a major games. I understand this is obviously a high-profile set of games, and I'm not sure if it's the second largest or not, but it's up there in terms of where it sits in international games. So this is no small feat. and it's going to be exciting for us. We also heard in the PanAm Stadium Precinct Committee that, you know, the CIS is going to be hosting a soccer tournament here. Their nationals is a bit of a test run on soccer. So, you know, all these things are coming. Don't forget, we're going to have a wonderful facility. And I keep coming back to something Councillor Morelli said at one of the meetings, that, you know, instead of locking up our stadium in the winter and not opening it up late spring, this thing's going to be open year-round. Maybe not to play soccer on because of the snow and the ice, but in terms of the indoor amenities and things, this won't be a locked facility. It won't be a dark facility in the middle of the neighborhood, and I think that's good news.
We could have an NHL Outdoor Classics.
Hey, you know what? It's happened before. AHL.
We had the AHL.
Yeah, so who knows?
All right, Paul, anything else you want to add or say anything else we're missing? Or anything?
No, I mean, I think by the turnout you see tonight, there's obviously interest and enthusiasm. As always, these meetings are driving our process, and I'm really excited by the way citizens have joined this cause, and they're really added. They're building their facilities, and that's a neat thing for me to see.
Paul, thank you for your time.
Thanks
My pleasure.
much, Paul.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What's your title? Well, we've written. I can
Director of Neighborhood Development.
Neighborhood and Community Initiatives.
Oh,
I think we've
dang.
written.
I got Director of Neighborhood Development.
Hey, Bob,
How are you? I owe you lunch.
Okay, for sure. I think I owe you lunch.
No, I think it's...
We were going to try and get together, and then we never. Whatever.
No, I think you paid the last time, and I promised. Unless I'm dreaming.
Well, we'll get together. Good weather comes in April, May.
Whatever's good for you.
Okay. All right.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
suspect.
Although
So-
you're busy now.
Busier than I was.
Okay, Councillor Moore, that feels weird to say. So you're here at the meeting tonight. Let's start off with the contract for the stadium. What are you hearing as the Ward 3 councillor? Because on council that was a very contentious, tense vote, as I'm well aware. What are you hearing?
Well, specifically, there are several aspects to it. I think it's getting resolved. There's a bit of a split on the council on one item, and some of us are trying to pull things together so there's a more unanimous approach, if at all possible, or at least a good majority, not just a split vote.
And what are you hearing from the community? Anything?
It's about individual parts of the whole component, schools, hockey, that kind of thing, rather than the broader picture, which I'm hoping to get a better handle on from tonight's meeting and
Well, that's what I was
when
gonna
they
say, like,
conclude.
with-
That's why this is invaluable here tonight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know we've got this meeting. That's what we're hoping to hear. But are you already hearing from people saying they want to have a leisure pool?
I've had people come in, on different aspects, and that's invaluable. And
What are they suggesting?
different opinions on the future of hockey, baseball, the senior center, and where there's a clash of opinions, it means people are thinking, and the democratic process rules. And so I'm encouraging everyone to let me know what their thoughts are. I get a lot of emails. That's something changed since I was
Yes,
in office
yeah.
before. Everything comes by email now, but it's easy to get through a whole lot of
Have you got
information
tweets
that way.
yet?
No,
on Twitter?
no, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a little behind the times with that, but I should, because
Have city staff.
everyone else is. I know that they can show me how, or my kids can.
So, Councillor, what are you watching as a councillor? What has you concerned at this point on?
Community and obviously the future needs of everything from PanAm to the Tiger Cats to the broader community. But my job is to look after the immediate community, and that's what I'm trying to get opinions on, and that's why tonight's gathering is vital.
How do you feel about seeing Ivor Wynn name now gone to history? And
Well, I think they can preserve it in some fashion, and that's worth it. I recall the vote at City Council when it was named after Mr. Wynn, or Dr. Wynn perhaps, and I think it can be written into it another way.
maybe a room or something named after him,
Or even
a
a
foyer or
subtitle. I think it's important to do that.
Tim Hortons Field honoring Ivor Wynn or something like that.
That's possible. I think there was some discussion of that with Vic Kops, of course, in the Coliseum, but there may be other ways of honoring him, and I don't think Wynn should be forgotten.
Are a lot of people saying there should be some way to honor Ivor Wynn?
There was a flurry of comment a number of weeks ago. I haven't since I've been in office, but I know that it was publicly discussed quite a bit a while ago.
So, Councillor, a bit of a unique situation for you that you're coming in and you're a caretaker almost in a way,
Yep.
to use the term that the Ticats owner likes to use. Another Bob. What are you hoping to achieve before you leave office December 1st?
I have some ideas about the future of industrial properties right across the north part of the city. I worked hard when I was mayor to bring the parks into existence in the West Harbour. That then led to the trail and further improvements, Pier 8, and then, of course, the grand deal with the Harbour Commissioners, now Port Authority. There's a wealth of land, some of which is remaining industrial. For example, the opening yesterday of Empire Steel, and what the Americans call AZZ, we say AZZ, in the old Westinghouse plant. So that shows that industry is also possible in locations that were once industrial and then changed in ownership and existence. But there's also immense opportunities for residential and commercial uses too. I'd like to get a better handle on putting together a strategy for the whole northerly section. We dealt successfully with the east end, Windermere Basin cleanup, other aspects there, and of course the west end is well underway. But there's that whole middle part, a great deal of which is in Ward 3. So that's kind of what I really want to get into, in addition to the other obvious stadium issues.
More specifically to the stadium, where do you want this to be at December 1st when you hand off to whoever the citizens of Ward 3 elect?
Well, the planning for the PanAm and next year's season of the Tiger Cats to be in good shape. And I'll be attempting to contribute towards that and to have things lined up in a way that is satisfactory to the Ward 3 community.
And to the parking issue, because that seems to be the big thing right now. What's in place for the first game for the Tiger Cats? How's that going to be addressed?
Details you'll have to get from someone else. I can't give you numbers and that kind of thing. It's I believe, going to be better than previously, but it's still an issue, and that's why the city was looking at other sites such as the West Harbour, which I certainly supported. So that's not an easy issue. I think it'll be better than previously. It was.
Anything that you wish to add, Council?
No, I'm really honored to be serving, and I take it very seriously. I want to help and measure up, and I'd like to get into some broader strategies on things that pertain to this ward first and foremost, but also, as I've had a chance to address at council, the strategy on provincial transfer payments, where we are a little bit behind the eight ball relative to other communities in a number of categories. And that's going to be part of the future budget discussions the next few weeks, which I want to contribute to as well.
Now, you definitely have said you're not going to run again, but you sound like you're having fun and everything. Do you think in the fall you might?
No, I had no intention previously, and I said I wouldn't. So That's and I put it in writing. So,
okay. Oh, you did?
so there's
Oh,
part of the declaration that I had to sign. I added that on.
I just thought maybe at the end of the summer that you enjoyed it and liked it. And you thought, well,
Oh, I won't enjoy it any less, but I will not be running.
all right, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine for me.
I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
that came forward as well at the tail end of this. And thanks to everybody who's been making their way to connect with different people. I know a number of people talked to Councillor Morrow, folks from the school board, our own staff, myself, so that's good. Good energy in the room. And clearly our most popular guy in the room is Greg. Where are you, Greg? You had like 1,800 people gathered around you, and everybody else, you know. We figured he was handing out free tickets to the PanAm Games or something like that. Anyways, we're going to hear from our facilitators, and why don't we first thank them for their energy tonight and helping out. Chris, why don't you kick it off, and then people can just come up one after another.
Well, our group was definitely engaged. We had some great ideas, so we'd like to share them with you as well. So just some general comments coming from our group, that the group thought that affordable seniors programming is a definite must. Seek out possible partnerships for programming, and maybe there's a possibility for a bike share opportunity within this area as well. Some of the amenities they'd like to see in the new Recreation Senior Centre: a leisure pool, a large gymnasium space, multi-purpose rooms, kitchen, cafeteria, washrooms for exterior use, so when the park's running, washrooms available, possible community garden, event space, and an extra large lobby. We discussed the possible health programming as well. We talked about the health bus and dental bus possibly being able to pull right up front, foot clinics, vaccinations, and nutrition programs possibly going in here as well. And we talked about some of the programming: active, passive seniors programming with the new rec center, computer access with Wi-Fi, multi-generational programming, youth team drop-in programs, community meeting room space, and a woodworking shop. And then finally, for the area within the stadium, definitely fitness programs, yoga, and community use was the most important thing that we definitely thought that the community needed to be in there.
So I just want to thank my group too. We had a lot of great ideas. So I'll start with the rec center. They want an indoor walking track, preferably one of those suspended walking tracks above a gym. That was sort of a really popular sort of suggestion. A coffee shop, not Tim Hortons, or some kind of concession. A lounging area for seniors, or a lounge area in the lobby for teenagers. Bike parking, sheltered bike parking. Women-only swims, mother and tot programs, especially swim programs. They want a shallower walk-in pool for mothers who bring their children. Standard recreation programs, they were okay with all the standard recreation programs, gym programs, sport programs, that kind of thing, and bigger family rooms. In terms of the stadium, we didn't talk a lot about that, but one thing they do want is an open house for the new stadium, or a tour for people who live in the neighborhood when the stadium is finally complete. They want maybe, in terms of the space in the stadium, maybe a youth teen center with billiards, table tennis, that kind of thing. And maybe more of a storefront. This was another suggestion. It's not really a recreation use, but maybe a storefront presentation with the space in the stadium, which could help to rejuvenate the neighborhood, coffee shop, restaurant, that kind of thing. And I think that was it for that. In terms of the senior center health programs, they want nutrition programs, cooking classes, healthy heart healthy programs for women, managing diabetes, arthritis programs, cancer recovery programs and support programs, mental health programs, newcomer programs, language courses, language programs. And another popular suggestion was to put a technology room either in the rec center or in the senior center. So this would be computers and courses, how to use the technology, Twitter, that kind of thing. So those were some of the suggestions we got. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. I had a very dedicated small group at my table, so we really got into some issues. I'm not going to repeat some of the things that other people have said, but those were generally echoed in my group as well. Some things that weren't mentioned was an idea of having summer programs or March break programs for kids, looking at cooking classes or having guest lectures or workshops to talk about things like home insurance or travel or medical or gardening, things like that. When it came to the second functional spaces, some ideas were some kind of food bank or soup kitchen idea, and having flexibility to use the space in many ways. And then also looking at outdoor facilities, so whether a playground was needed or a basketball area for youth, because I guess the basketball nets around the school areas are very well used. For type of programs like offered within the stadium, it was generally agreed that we wanted to bring back Pink Floyd to encourage. Yeah. So we wanted to encourage concerts when the area wasn't being programmed for other things, or trying to attract different sporting events such as track and field, and perhaps for the fitness buffs in the area, maybe opening the stadium up to stair running. And then for health programs, things that hadn't been mentioned yet was perhaps the possibility for a walk-in clinic or physio, which I guess is hard to get in this area. So I just want to thank the dedicated people in my group. Thanks.
Lots of people, lots of input, so I'll try to go through this fairly quickly. If I miss anything, my apologies, but it will get captured in the notes. Ample free parking, yoga, increased bus service, great to have more programming but more public transit, an outdoor rink on the plaza space, free accessible space for neighborhood groups to have meetings at the rec center, running club, a physical activity area in the park, leash-free park for dogs during certain times, 3 swimming tanks, as Chris mentioned, but emphasis on a therapeutic area with lots of jets to warm up those aching muscles. Partner with Mohawk College and other institutions to offer things like cooking classes. Above and beyond just Pink Floyd and concerts, things that are creative in terms of stadium programming, things like the Mountie Ride, marching bands, dog shows, other forms of entertainment. Card games at the new recreation center, an emphasis on it being fully accessible. Free recreation at the park. It doesn't all need to be structured program like baseball and soccer, just some free play activities for the kids and to incorporate that into the park. The need for a sport legacy from the PanAm Games, a free accessible program for soccer for the kids. Reduce the speed, especially on Cannon Street if you're going to provide more programming. Link programs where seniors work directly with our youth and try to integrate those programs, and also have a community kitchen in which all can use. A big emphasis in our group with the arts and the drama for all ages, but in particular seniors, not just physical activity programs, but lots of arts and drama. The Bone Builders program for seniors. It was emphasized that if you're going to decommission the old rink here, maybe consider closing down Eastwood and maybe even Rosedale, but the need to build a new twin pad arena somewhere in the lower city. Also offer ethnic programming so those that only speak a foreign language can come and feel comfortable where their language is also available. To have a Tim Hortons on site at the new stadium. Incorporate as part of the therapy, arts, and music. Integrate the bus into the facility so there's a proper drop-off. There's concern about safety, leaving the bus and walking across the street to the rec center. So have a drop-off area. Have a filmmakers program with audio-visual equipment within the rec center. Again, a multi-use gym and rink. The possibility of providing a skateboard park at the new park. There was questions around the square footage of the new recreation center. Chris might be able to address. It was mentioned there should be a good food box program available at the rec center. The one that currently is in the area is a little far to walk, especially on cold days. To have an open access as you walk into the rec center and know directly where you can get information on programming with an emphasis on customer service. Of course, things like elevator, railings, fully accessible as mentioned before. The roof should be a green space where there could be gardening on the roof where fresh produce could be made. Also that the city should take advantage of things like solar energy to reduce costs and ensure high efficiencies. There should be first aid stations somewhere in the senior center, defibrillators. There should be a health clinic. At the new park, they said it's great we have lawn bowling at Gage Park, but there's no bocce facilities nearby, and that was mentioned. There was also a reference at the new stadium and at the rec center that there should be public art on display for the community to see, to beautify the area and emphasize the arts. Involve police, fire, and EMT and have them involved more with the community from a neighborhood perspective. Again, it was mentioned we need more green space in this area. Along with a so-called sports park, there should also be walking trails and the opportunity to exercise at the park. They should also incorporate into the walking trail a bike trail. There should be proper nighttime lighting both at the park and the recreation center to try to make the area more safe. There should be after-school programs at the rec center, and they should close Cannon Street during all special events. There should be a taxi stand at the stadium, or taxi drivers not happy. There should be a giant screen that could be erected on weekends or sometime during the summer for a movie night for the community to watch movies. On Barton Street, there should be more emphasis to bring in bistros and cafes and more type of shops that are conducive to a neighborhood. There should be more policing in the area, more community policing, and an emphasis to reduce crime, especially with these new facilities. There should be grants available to help the Barton BIA. And there should be not only renaming of the Recreation Senior Center after Bernie Morelli, it was emphasized there should be a plaque to recognize his contribution to this project and this community. Last but not least, it was also mentioned, great we're getting these new facilities, but it's really important following the construction that the area is properly cleaned up, new paving, new walkways, and improved landscaping just to beautify the area. I think that's it. If I missed anything, let us know at the end.
So for my group, we were very active and we had a lot of ideas. One of the first ones was that it should be an inclusive space, open to everyone, and programmed for multiple groups, so it's best used by the community. Make it a green space. They were talking about solar panels, possibly incorporating some wind into the design. The green roof that's been mentioned, along with the bike racks and possibly a bike share location on site, and that to make sure that the site is safe, secure, well lit for the community. Bus service was brought up for accessibility to the location, making sure ample parking. For the facility, they wanted a gym, theater space, retractable screens such as the one we have here tonight, audio equipment for the gym, the pool, and the multi-purpose rooms and the various meeting rooms, ample storage space and lockers. For a pool, they suggested a 50-meter swim pool with plenty of spectator space and an ability for diverse community programming at that location, therapeutic pool space, possibly a sauna, outdoors tennis courts. They also mentioned a large kitchen space, which has also been mentioned, but for nutrition and healthy food seminars. Accessible programming for people of all abilities, multicultural programming, women-specific programming for youth related to their school hours with schools around there, affordable space for community use, so it could be rented and accessed by various community organizations. Some of the community workshops they were looking at was woodworking, life skills, crafts, bike repairs. Track and field programming and track and field space was requested. Try-it programming for when the facility starts, so there would be a couple of weeks of each program offered. People could come and try, see what they like, and then they could decide to sign up for more of it. And then with regards to health, public health around diabetes education, public health nurse making regular visits, as well as dental services, and mental health for youth services. Thank you.
think I'm the last group, so hopefully we hit a lot on that. The group we had really talked higher level and community level and maintaining a lot of the community integrity that's here. How do we maintain the feel of community around the stadium there is, and the trees and the green space and the beautification along, walkability along Cannon Street and Barton Street, King Street, all of that. How do we improve walkability and transportation in and out of the area? And what's going to be done with parking, and what's going to be done to alleviate some of those concerns brought up. There was a lot of talk about community gathering space and where can we come together as a community, whether it be the green space or the stadium. How do we have community space that's open, that's low cost, that's affordable, kitchen space that we can access as a community. And we talked a lot about the flexibility of space and space being able to grow, changing demographics. There's a wide demographic, so how do we meet all those needs with the flexibility of space? There was some talk too about programming and using the stadium to promote healthy living, to promote access to fitness classes and some unique fitness opportunities, recognizing physical activity and healthy living. And then programs was really something for everyone, unique facility, make it a world-class facility, make it a feature of this area, and have it as a place where people love to stay and live and be as the community. So a big community focus came out of the group, so thank you to the group for that. Thank you.
So we've thanked our facilitators. Let's thank each other. You did a tremendous amount of work. That's a lot of information, so thank you. A few questions that were generated within the groups. One is, will people be allowed to park on lawns on game days when the new stadium opens? And Coralie tells me yes, that that will happen. As I know we've been out of that since they closed the stadium, but we'll be back in that business. Somebody asked, what is the age for seniors? And this is, you know, they set me up here to answer this question because they said, if you get it wrong, at least they'll run you out of the gym and not us. Generally speaking, it's 55 years old is where that goes. But I'll tell you that the city is also developing a senior strategy. We begin public discussions on that in April and in May. And so it'll be interesting to see as the seniors plan for the city emerges whether there's any additional information. But right now, in terms of our programming, we talk in terms of 55 years and older. There was a question, we talked about baseball in 2014, and somebody said, well, what about baseball afterwards at Scott Park? That was meant to assure you that this season we're up and going. Baseball will remain at Scott Park in some capacity, and in fact, there'll be a need to update and upgrade the facilities, because I think after this season, Coralie, there won't be parking for the Ticats on the grass. So it'll allow us a chance to update the fields and use them for what they're meant for, which is recreation, right? So somebody said, you know, we saw a picture in May last year that had an ice rink and like an outdoor ice rink splash pad actually I think it was in the forecourt of the stadium. And what's the status of that? And I can tell you that we're still unclear about what and how and if that can happen. It's not within the budget that we have capital-wise at the moment. All of that would be post-PanAm anyways, so it's post-2015, the planning for that. The stadium construction is set, so we can't sort of add in new things at this point. We need to get the stadium finished, and this would be post-PanAm. I can tell you, though, that there's still a lot of interest, and we're looking at ways and looking at other jurisdictions, the way they've done ice rink stroke slash pad. So it's an ice rink in the winter, obviously. You can set it up so the jets are also there for the summer, so it can be a bit of a splash pad. And it's obviously a great amenity. How many have been down to Bayfront Park down at the Harbourfront to utilize that facility? Great. And, you know, also roller skating and things happening now where I guess it's one of the top destinations for roller skating now. Who would have thought? So we'll keep that on the radar, but right now, not part of the plan, not part of the capital investment. Somebody asked, where is the high school going? The high school's slated to be constructed on the site that currently has Parkview in King George. And the follow-up question to that was, why is it not a joint venture? We heard about that the last time we were together. Council, pardon me? Why they're not being built? Yeah, I was just going to answer that. We were not provided direction to enter into a joint facility at Scott Park. We were provided direction by council to build a standalone facility, and the school therefore has exercised their additional plans in terms of where that's happening. And there's another question about schools. I'm going to have Peter come up and answer that in just 1 second. Somebody asked about arena and saying, well, the arena decommissioned, but what about still having an arena? And certainly that was raised as some of the concerns in the group. Can tell you that all of the programming that was currently at Scott Park can be accommodated actually quite easily in other facilities, because there is an overall surplus of ice time within the city of Hamilton. That doesn't make it any easier from a local access perspective, and as some people have suggested, maybe it's time to look at a lower city plan for arenas. That's not underway at the moment, but something we could consider. Are you following up to that? In terms of capacity, the capacity is there. In terms of an arena strategy, that's something that we would need to consider. And I know the councillors talked to me about the concerns about the arena and the strategy around that. But that's a future piece. But in terms of is there space available for this, the answer from Recreation is yes, there is. Despite the other pieces, not just looking at Scott Park in the absence of the others. Another question that came up is the square footage of the overall centre we're talking about. It is at least 50,000 square feet, and we were talking in the corner that based on some of tonight, we might be looking at 150,000 square feet. Councillor, you might have to do some extra work around the horseshoe to get us some resources around that. But it will be a large facility. It's going to be on the scale more so of Westmount than of Stony Creek. If I'm not mistaken. So if you are traveling around the community in the next little while and can scoop by Westmount, that's the sort of size. It doesn't mean that's the amenities that would be in there. They went through a process to look at what was required in that community. You're going through that process. But if you want to see what a facility of that approximate size looks like, then Westmount is a better comparator for what we're thinking about here than the Stony Creek site in terms of size. Yes? Yes. The combined space would be yep. Some of that will be determined in terms of the feedback from tonight. So the sizing and scoping of the dedicated senior space versus other space really will come out of what we've been hearing tonight. And we'll come back with some of those plans so you get to see it. But the idea is to build in the various components that we've heard repeatedly. You know, not everything can be there. I think we're all cognizant of that. But we'll come back and break down exactly how it fits at the end of the day once we look at the programming side of it. But until the programming is set, because the other piece is you can utilize spaces in conjunction. You know, so we're not building a standalone seniors facility with a pool. The pool will be there. It's not a seniors pool versus another pool. The pool will have programming around it. There could be multi-purpose rooms that at certain times of the day are dedicated and at other times of the day are dedicated for other work. So in terms of saying we want 22,000 for this and we want 32,000 for that or something, it may be a little more fuzzy than that, but we'll be able to come back and say, here's the dedicated spaces for these activities, here's the spaces for these activities as part of our design, Chris. Is that fair to say? Follow up to that? Can we get to that after I go through these ones first? Sorry. So we're going to get to Scott Park in a second. So that's the square footage piece. Peter, maybe you can come and talk a little bit about what's going to happen. One of the questions that came up is what's going to happen with King George School. I think more from the standpoint of that's certainly a more historical building than the Parkview site, but King George.
Thank you, Paul. And as Paul mentioned, the school board's plan is to build the new high school on the current Parkview King George site. It will be a 1,250 pupil place school with green space as well. And so we're currently working with the city to develop a cultural heritage evaluation and a heritage inventory assessment of King George, and also of Parkview. And once that report has been finalized, that will determine for us how much of King George can be incorporated into the new build. So we should have that information and that final assessment within the next couple of months, and that'll determine for us what we do next in terms of that site. Okay. Yes. I'm sorry?
For 1,000 to 1,200 school, high school, Minister of Education says it's going to be approximately 15 acres. This school over here is going to be on 3.2 acres.
Right.
How high is that going to be?
It's
so if you're going to build that
story.
4-story, you might as well put windows in that one.
The building that we're looking at, the construct on that site for 1,250 pupils will be a 3-story building.
Is that with a theater?
Sorry?
Is that with a theater?
It does not. The ministry is supporting $32 million for the build, and that does not include a theater space.
We're giving up Delta Theater, we're giving us the McDonald's Theater, and we're not getting one here.
Yeah, we're following ministry mandate around what we can build in the school. Yeah.
Okay. 21st century school, buddy. Let's get the land.
Okay, I think the point's been made on that, so we're going to move on because this isn't a discussion on school board. It's not a discussion on the school board tonight because we've had those public meetings. So, is it a follow-up to King George and it's?
Well, it's a question about the new high school. Can I ask that?
Sure. What's the question?
Can you tell me where the new high school football team will be playing its home games?
So so the green space that we talked and soccer field on property.
And all these students go over there to support their team, and they're playing at Churchill against Churchill. What's going on?
So
that becomes confusing, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, that's what was decided. Okay, folks, we're going to get back to the question because we have a question about the old Scott Park School from here. Yep.
What are we stuck with? You built your existing recreation center around a structure that's massive.
We don't own that site, and the city has no intention of owning that site.
I understand you don't own that, but my question is, what happens to that? Like, we're building all this around something that we have no control over, right? So, what's to say somebody doesn't buy that and decide, oh, we're going to open up, I don't know, a Home Depot there? You know what I'm saying? Like,
that I can tell you is not allowed under the zoning, so that I get your point, yes. No Home Depot does.
My point is this, you're putting all this money into something, and building around something that should be appropriated and torn down. It doesn't make sense to me to put all this effort into something.
Are there any efforts towards appropriating that?
Yeah, like why not?
So the school board is going through the process of expropriating that land, and my understanding is that building is coming down.
Could Mr. Simmons address some of these questions? Because this is
No, it's not a school board meeting tonight. So the school board has had a number of meetings. We can schedule some more to talk about that, but tonight we need to get through some of this other piece of work. But the questions and concerns, that's why they're here all the time. We don't have separate meetings, but we can't continue on in terms of all of the questions you have about the school, but we can schedule something together and do this again. So, question here.
I raise my children in this neighborhood and they don't have any green space here. I mean, the only green space that they have is by Scott Park. Like for free space. There's no slides, there's no swings. They play in the dirty alley with the garbage that doesn't get right? And I don't see, you know, they go over to King George and play on the cement, or they can come over here and play on the cement, right? It's a cement jungle here. There's no, I don't see any, and that needs to be first and foremost. We already have to put up with the pollution crap from all the industry because we're the working class poor. So, you know, where's the green space for the children? My children are older now. They don't have to play in the crap now. They can get on a bus and go wherever they have to go. But that's what these kids are going to be set with, no green space, because there isn't. Like, just swing sets, you know, and places to...
So certainly, wherever possible...
By Dominion, that's not, like, over by Dominion, that's far away. That's not this neighborhood. There is nothing here. Zero. Not by a single slide. We got a lot of pollution.
So certainly we've heard tonight that those types of amenities, how we can build in some small green space. The bottom line is I'm sure you can appreciate in terms of large amounts of green space, it doesn't exist, you know, in this real tight area. So
a little green space. I got an alley full of garbage where little children play. I got pictures of it. If you look on the skyscraper, that's where you'll see the kids play.
So the exercise is to always be looking at ways we can increase green space where there's deficits. This ward, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but is the top of the heap in terms of deficits of green space. The city's identified that in our outdoor study. So some steps are being taken. Is it all that we can do? No. That's why it's great the councillor's here, and he may want to just address, he's going to close off the meeting in about 2 minutes and address some of these issues. But those are the kinds of concerns that we need to continue to hear. We're trying to move the needle together, and $25 million combined investment will move the needle a bit, and we need to continue to move the needle on it. But I think the point's very well taken in terms of we need to also balance off what all the amenities are, because just having lots of sports fields is good in certain cases, but in terms of where families can go and kids can go at all ages and participate, we need to balance that off with the need for ball diamonds, soccer fields, football fields, and all the rest. I appreciate that as well. So we're going to have to wrap up things. One question at the back, and then I'm going to ask the council to come and close off this evening. So process-wise, exactly what you described is actually a piece of the good news we have here. We actually have a few facilities that can accommodate what you've been talking about. I've talked about the school. We have a wonderful school here that can accommodate certain things. We're going to have a high school that can accommodate certain things. We have a stadium. We also have Boys and Girls Club. We have the YWCA. And I get that some of these are a little further distance, but if you look at the whole area, we've got amenities in the area. HARP. The work that's happening at St. Giles in terms of some programming space. So we can look at those. The process would be that we distill all of this into some kind of plan that fits within the square footage budget we have, and wherever possible align space that it could do 2 or 3 different things. The piece of work that we do is going to come back here. The community will have another chance to see it and understand how we've been able to accommodate things, and we'll have to work with our partners around how we accommodate some of the pieces that may have to go out further into the community. Our expectation on timing on that would be a fall conversation, given the work that has to happen. In between that, there's going to be another conversation about PanAm, including a celebration in this area for the 1-year countdown to PanAm. So the timing now is PanAm meeting will happen next in terms of some more information about PanAm and a celebration of the year launch to that. And then in the fall, we'd be back with some of the recreational pieces. And along the way, when we get news about other components like the outdoor space, we'll be able to bring those to you. And if we ever have to pull together a meeting because something's changed or something has been announced that we really want to get input to, we'll do that as well. But what I liked about what you said is don't focus only on the asset we're building. Because I think, Chris, our challenge is there's more that's been discussed here tonight that we can fit into a facility, even if we upped it to 65,000 square feet or 70 or something. So we're going to have to be creative with our partners, and I like that, because this is a neighborhood that tends to do that anyways. I know there's probably a few more questions. All of us are available. The councillor has said he's available always to ask the questions too, and we're here to support the councillor in terms of getting you the answers. But I did want to give Councillor Morrow a chance to come up and close our meeting tonight, and I thank you for your participation this evening. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank everyone for participating. I had a chance to listen to some of the groups and speak to people individually. The woman over here, I'm not sure where she's gotten to. She's going to come and see me some Friday soon, and I am particularly interested in the green space issue. You come too, great, and anyone else. But I look forward to that, and I'm assured by Mr. Machak that there'll be a consolidated list of all the suggestions that have flown from the various groups here tonight, which will be very helpful as well. I won't be a candidate for re-election to the ward councillor's position, but thanks. Thanks. No, I signed a declaration to that effect. However, and I didn't know I'd be here even now, but thank you. There are several candidates, however, and I've always felt a great deal of gratitude to people who jump into the frying pan, as it were, from the frying pan to the fire. I'm wondering if all the candidates here for council or one of the school boards could stand in case you have questions for them after. And just no speeches tonight, but give your names and what you're running for.